Hey, black guy, this shiny, expensive car definitely isn't yours, is it? Or did you borrow it from some rich boss and just happen to drop by here to deliver some white stuff in this slum? Officer Mitch Callahan's voice rang out, following the sound of the siren that had just died down. His voice full of sarcasm, contempt, and undisguised envy. He, a white cop with a growing beer belly, had just pulled over a white Lamborghini Aventador, a monster of a street, right in front of the gates of a rundown apartment complex in South Central. The black man sitting comfortably behind the wheel, Damon Hayes, wearing a perfectly tailored Armani suit worth thousands of dollars, slowly removed his Ray-Ban sunglasses, revealing sharp, intelligent eyes. He looked at the police officer with confusion and surprise. "Officer, is there something wrong? Did I break any traffic laws?" His voice was deep, warm, and had an undeniable confidence. Officer Callahan let out a snort, a smile that was both superior and challenging. "The problem is, you don't look like you belong here. You look suspicious, my friend. Now open your trunk and hurry. Don't dawdle." He deliberately tapped his fingers on the Glock pistol on his hip, an act of implicit intimidation, a way to show off to someone he considered inferior. Was it a simple misunderstanding in patrol work, or was this a blatant act of racism and abuse of power, based on inherent prejudice and base jealousy? Was the elegant man driving the million-dollar supercar really suspicious, as the police officer said? Or was it just an excuse for him to carry out his evil intentions? And did this greedy, corrupt police officer have any idea that his stupid actions, his arrogance, were about to ignite a huge storm? A storm that could sweep away his career, his future, and even his freedom? Let's follow this dramatic story to the end. The black man sitting behind the wheel of that supercar is none other than Damon Hayes, 48 years old, a name that anyone working in the entertainment industry in Hollywood must know and respect. He is an extremely successful music, film, and television producer, a real boss, who has a huge influence in shaping trends and creating the world's top stars. Damon Hayes owns a famous record label and a private film production company, places that have given wings to the dreams of countless young artists and have created the names of many big stars, icons of the entertainment industry. His net worth, according to estimates by prestigious financial magazines, is up to hundreds of millions of dollars, a number that many people would not dare to dream of in their entire lives. The reason why Damon Hayes, such a rich and powerful man, appeared in a poor, shabby neighborhood like South Central on a weekend afternoon was not to show off his wealth or to seek strange pleasures. Few people know that Damon Hayes grew up, experienced his miserable and difficult childhood years in this very neighborhood. Even though he has now become extremely rich, famous, and has a life that many people envy, he never forgets his roots. Never forgets the people, the memories that were attached to him during the difficult days. He often secretly returned to this old neighborhood, not as an entertainment mogul, but simply as a son far from home, to visit old childhood friends, the kind neighbors who had taken him in, to help the community with practical actions, and to fund projects to develop skills and education for the struggling youth here, in the hope that they too would have a brighter future. That day, he came here to visit a childhood friend, a sworn brother, who was struggling with a serious illness in his final days. Damon Hayes' demeanor always exuded confidence, elegance, and an amazing calmness, but absolutely no trace of arrogance or arrogance. He was used to being treated with respect, being welcomed in the most luxurious places. But at the same time, he is no stranger to prejudice, scrutiny, and even discrimination that a successful, wealthy black man like him can sometimes encounter in a society that still has many injustices. He drives a white Lamborghini Aventador supercar, not because he wants to show off his wealth, but simply because it is his favorite car, a work of art of the automotive industry. and he feels comfortable and relaxed when he drives it on the roads himself. The values that Damon Hayes always respected and pursued throughout his life are fairness, deep gratitude to those who have helped him, and a strong belief in using his success and resources to help others. Those who are less fortunate. He is extremely disgusted by injustice, abuse of power, and discrimination in any form. Officer Mitchie Callahan, about 35 years old, white, had been a police patrolman in this area, one of the most difficult and poor areas of the city, for 7 years. During that time, Callahan had become famous in the community and within the police department, not for outstanding achievements, but for his arrogant, authoritarian attitude, his habit of bullying people, and especially his extremely deep, barely concealed racist thoughts. He was especially jealous, annoyed, and angry whenever he saw people of color succeed, be rich, or own large assets, things he believed they did not deserve. The annual salary of a lowly patrol officer like him was only about $65,000, a figure too small compared to what he wanted, and he always felt dissatisfied and frustrated with his current life, always thinking that this society was unfair to him. Officer Callahan's negative actions had become a habit. He often stopped black people driving expensive, luxurious cars without reason, then found every way to make things difficult, find petty mistakes, with the ultimate goal of extorting bribes. He always believed that those black people could not possibly have such valuable assets through honest, legitimate business, but must have obtained them through some illegal, shady ways. And he thought he had the right to punish them, or at least share a part of that spoils. Officer Callahan's motive for deciding to stop Damon Hayes' Lamborghini that afternoon was not beyond those deviant and sick thoughts. When he saw a black man, dressed smartly and elegantly, driving a Lamborghini, a car that he never dared to dream of in his life, entering a poor, shabby neighborhood like South Central, all the prejudices, all the jealousy and greed in Callahan immediately rose up strongly. He almost assumed that Damon Hayes must be a big drug dealer, some kind of emerging crime boss, coming here to carry out an illegal business deal. And this is a golden opportunity for him to make money on a large sum of money, or at least to satisfy his sick sense of satisfaction, the feeling of being in control of the situation. Damon Hayes, though feeling a little uncomfortable with the officer's attitude and disrespectful words, tried to remain calm and cooperative. He took out the Lamborghini's registration papers and his valid driver's license, all of which were legal and in his name, and handed them to Officer Callahan. However, Officer Callahan deliberately ignored the papers, not even bothering to glance at them. "These papers can be forged easily. I don't trust that stuff. Now I want to inspect your car thoroughly. Open the trunk right now. Open all the doors for me," he said, his voice commanding and domineering. Damon Hayes began to feel his discomfort growing. "Officer, I don't think you have any legitimate reason to search my car. I repeat, I have not done anything wrong or broken any laws." Officer Callahan sneered obnoxiously. "Nothing wrong? A black guy like you, dressed smartly, driving $1 million car into this slum, this den of crime. There must be something wrong. It can't be clean. Or do you want to talk to me privately so that everything can be resolved more quickly and smoothly? I can completely, mercifully, and let it go for you this time. If you really know your stuff and understand a little bit." As he spoke, he held out his right hand, fingers spread out and closed, a gesture that implied a blatant and unabashed demand for a bribe. Damon Hayes looked straight into Officer Callahan's cunning and greedy eyes, his voice becoming colder and more steely than ever. "I will never give you a single coin. Your current behavior is completely unacceptable. a serious violation of the law and professional ethics of a police officer. I request that you immediately call your immediate superior here to work." Damon Hayes' blunt refusal, without a moment of hesitation, and his firm, fearless attitude made Officer Mitch Callahan feel extremely angry. He felt that he was being disrespected, challenged by a nigger, something he could never accept. His sick pride and inherent stupidity had completely lost his mind. You dare lecture me, you dirty nigger?" He roared like a wounded animal. Without a second thought, Officer Callahan pulled the Glock pistol from his waistband, cocked it menacingly, and pointed the cold, black barrel straight at Damon Hayes. "Get out of the car! Put your hands above your head! If you dare move an inch, I'll blow your brains out right here!" The atmosphere around him suddenly became extremely tense, thick as if a big explosion was about to happen. A few curious people in the neighborhood, who had heard the argument and seen the incident from afar, began to open their windows and doors to peek outside, their faces filled with fear and anxiety, even though he was facing a cold, black gun barrel pointed straight at his head, a situation where anyone could panic and lose their composure. Damon Hayes still maintained an amazing calm, an extraordinary self-control. Perhaps it was the fortitude of a man who had experienced countless stressful situations, the brain-numbing negotiations in the complex entertainment industry. Or perhaps it was the personal fortitude of a black man who was all too familiar with having to face prejudice and injustice in life. "Officer, I advise you to put your gun down immediately. You are making a huge mistake, a mistake that you will never be able to correct," Damon Hayes said, his voice still even, not a bit shaky, but containing a special weight, a powerful implicit warning. He slowly, very slowly, reached for the latest smartphone that was placed on the center console of the car. "I need to make an important phone call." Officer Callahan, although his hand was still holding the gun and pointing it straight at Damon. But when he saw the black man's unusual calmness, he also began to feel a little bit wrong, a little hesitant, and a little vaguely worried. He roared, trying to regain his aggressiveness. "Don't call anyone! Put that phone down right now or I'll shoot!" But there was no longer the absolute confidence in his voice like before. Damon Hayes seemed to pay no attention to Callahan's threat. He calmly dialed a phone number that was saved in the speed dial list. As soon as the call was connected, he put the speakerphone on. "Mark, where are you? I'm at 5th and Elm, South Central. There's been a little misunderstanding, an unfortunate incident with a police officer here. Would you please call Ava Sharma and tell her to come here ASAP? Oh, and maybe you should call Chief Elena Ramirez about this as well." His voice remained calm, as if he were talking about the weather. Hearing Damon Hayes call so calmly, and then give orders so naturally, Officer Callahan became even more angry and annoyed. He thought Damon Hayes was just acting, trying to show that he knew someone to intimidate him. Or maybe he was calling his accomplices to come and help. "It's useless to call anyone here, you bastard." He continued to point the gun at Damon, but he began to feel a growing unease at the black man's overconfident and somewhat mysterious demeanor. The names Ava Sharma and Chief Elena Ramirez that Damon had just mentioned sounded very familiar, but in the moment of tension, he could not immediately remember who they were. In less than 20 minutes after that phone call, an incredibly short time, a luxurious, shiny, jet black Mercedes Maybach S680, followed immediately by 2 other black police SUVs, quickly arrived and stopped near the scene. From the Maybach, Ava Sharma, a famous and powerful Indian-American lawyer in Hollywood who specializes in handling large, complex lawsuits for superstars and entertainment moguls, quickly stepped out of the car. She was wearing a cream-colored designer business suit, looking professional and confident. With her was Mark Bellwether, a white man about Damon's age, Damon Hayes' right-hand man, right-hand man, and longtime close friend. From two police SUVs, Deputy Chief Elena Ramirez, the city's deputy police chief, a strong and honest Latina woman with whom Damon Hayes had a good personal relationship through the charitable activities he sponsored for the police department, also stepped out, her face extremely serious and somewhat tense. With her were several other senior police officers. Officer Mitch Callahan, upon seeing the sudden and impressive appearance of this luxurious convoy and these powerful-looking figures, was completely stunned. He knew Ava Sharma very well from the media, a female lawyer that no one dared to underestimate, and the presence of Deputy Chief Elena Ramirez made him start to feel a real panic. An extreme anxiety was invading his mind. Ava Sharma, without any hesitation, walked straight to Officer Callahan, her voice cold and sharp. "Officer Callahan, badge number 3187, is that right? I am Ava Sharma, the attorney representing my client, Mr. Damon Hayes, at whom you are unlawfully and unjustly pointing a gun. Your entire behavior up to now, including the arbitrary blocking of the vehicle, the insulting words, the intentional extortion of money, and especially the act of threatening the life of another person with a military weapon, have all been fully recorded by the security camera system installed on Mr. Hayes's vehicle and most likely by the surrounding witnesses. You should know that Mr. Damon Hayes is one of the most powerful and influential music and film producers in Hollywood today. He is also a major contributor to many charities in this city and is a close friend of many famous politicians, respected judges, and heads of important law enforcement agencies." Marcus Bellwether, Damon's close friend, added sarcastically, "And this neighborhood, which you just so derogatorily called the slum, is where Damon Hayes was born and raised. He's funding millions of dollars a year for community development projects, building schools, hospitals, and youth centers in this very slum." Officer Mitch Callahan's face was now as white as a sheet of paper, drained of blood. He stammered, the pistol in his hand shaking so much he could barely hold it. Mr. Hayes. Producer Damon Hayes. No way. This must be a mistake." He couldn't believe that he had just foolishly pointed a gun at a real big shot of the entertainment industry, a figure of such terrible influence. Deputy Chief Elena Ramirez stepped closer, her voice stern and without any mercy. "Officer Callahan, you are suspended immediately. From this moment, please surrender your weapon and police badge. You will be required to give a full and detailed explanation of all your wrongdoings today before the department's disciplinary board." Officer Mitch Callahan, hearing those words, felt like he had been hit by a thunderbolt. He fell to his knees on the hot asphalt, almost collapsing on the spot. All the previous aggression, arrogance, complacency, and evil intentions had completely disappeared without a trace, leaving only extreme fear, despair, and belated regret. Damon Hayes, who had been reassured and secured by his close friends and legal team, remained remarkably calm. But his eyes were filled with deep disappointment and simmering anger. He demanded that Deputy Chief Elena Ramirez conduct a full investigation into the incident and that Officer Mitch Callahan be dealt with to the fullest extent of the law. "I don't want anyone else," he said, his voice full of determination. "Especially the poor, honest people who live in this neighborhood where I grew up, to have to endure this kind of unfair treatment, abuse of power, and contempt from the corrupt, rotten apples that are rotting in your police force." The talented lawyer Ava Sharma also immediately announced that she and her team will take the necessary legal procedures to best protect the legal rights of her client, Mr. Damon Hayes, and will also request a reasonable compensation for the damage to his honor, reputation, and mental damage that he has suffered due to Officer Callahan's misconduct. With the direct and decisive direction of Deputy Chief Elena Ramirez, along with great pressure from Damon Hayes and his strong, experienced legal team. The internal investigation of the city police department took place at an extremely fast and effective pace. The security camera system was discreetly installed on Damon Hayes' Lamborghini Aventador supercar, along with his detailed and clear testimony, and possibly the testimony of some witnesses who were residents in the neighborhood, who bravely stood up to denounce, after being assured. Officer Mitch Callahan's work record and background were also thoroughly reviewed by investigators. They discovered many previous complaints and accusations from citizens about his past abuse of power, extortion, and similar arrogant attitudes. However, for various reasons, possibly due to cover-ups by superiors or due to the victims not having enough evidence, those cases were not thoroughly handled, causing Callahan to become increasingly rampant and disregard the law. Based on the undeniable evidence and the serious, recurring nature of the incident, Chief Elena Ramirez, without hesitation, decided to immediately fire Officer Mitch Callahan from the police force, without any leniency. Not only was Mitch Callahan fired in a humiliating manner, he was also formally prosecuted by the District Attorney's Office in criminal court for a series of serious crimes, including abuse of power and authority while performing official duties, intentionally soliciting bribes, illegally using military weapons to threaten the lives of citizens, and seriously violating the freedoms and democratic rights of citizens protected by the Constitution. Damon Hayes' extensive relationships and influence in the upper class, political circles, and even in law enforcement agencies have partly ensured that this case will never be sunk or handled lightly and carelessly like the previous times. Justice, this time, must be carried out in the strictest manner. At the trial, with such clear and irrefutable evidence, along with the weighty and convincing testimony of the victim, Mr. Damon Hayes, and the weak and unfounded defense of the defendant's lawyer, Mitch Callahan had no way to deny or justify his crimes. The jury, after a short deliberation, quickly reached a unanimous verdict. Mitch Callahan was completely guilty of all the charges brought against him. The judge presiding over the trial, after carefully considering the seriousness of the abuse of power, the use of military weapons to threaten an innocent citizen out of greed and discrimination, sentenced Mitch Callahan to 5 years in prison. This is considered an extremely severe sentence, a suitable punishment, to send a strong and clear message to the whole society. The noisy and dramatic case has finally been closed. Mitch Callahan, a police officer with some power, now has to begin his long days behind the cold bars of a federal prison. His career, honor, future, and life are considered to have completely ended in humiliation, shame, and contempt from society. Damon Hayes, although he had to go through a close call, an unpleasant experience, but he felt extremely satisfied and relieved that justice was finally strictly enforced. He felt even more determined to continue supporting and helping the community where he was born and raised, so that no one else, especially young people, have to suffer injustice, discrimination just because of the color of their skin or their background. He also decided to establish a charity fund in his name, with the main purpose of providing legal and material support to victims of police violence and other abuses of power. This incident has become an extremely expensive lesson, a profound warning for the entire city police department. Chief Elena Ramirez and other leaders in the industry have faced great pressure from public opinion and from superiors to quickly reform, clean up the force, and regain the trust of the people. Many new, stricter policies on monitoring police activities, on the selection process, training and assessment of officers' capacity and ethics have been introduced and seriously applied. The incident of a black Hollywood boss being held at gunpoint by a white police officer just because of racial discrimination and the intention to demand a bribe has caused a great shock in the media and in the entertainment industry. It has become a hot topic of discussion in newspapers and social networking forums, sparking extremely fierce debates about the persistent racism, the abuse of power in a large part of the law enforcement force, and the need for more drastic and fundamental changes. Many famous movie stars, musicians, influential people in the entertainment industry, people who have been supported and helped by Damon Hayes, have all strongly voiced their support for him, while also strongly condemning the police officer's wrongdoing and corruption. The pressure from public opinion on the authorities in this case is extremely great. Power and wealth cannot always protect you completely from injustice, discrimination, and blind prejudices of society, but sometimes they can become extremely powerful tools, sharp weapons for you to reclaim justice for yourself and for others. Never be hasty to despise or underestimate anyone, because you can never know who they really are, what kind of relationships they have, and how influential they are. Insatiable greed and discrimination, in any form, will eventually lead to destruction, collapse, and appropriate punishment by law and conscience. What do you think about Damon Hayes' reaction and handling of the situation when he was threatened by Officer Mitch Callahan at gunpoint? Was his calmness and decisiveness the key factor that helped him turn the situation around? If you were Damon Hayes, a person with such influence and power, would you choose to use all your influence to ensure that Officer Callahan received the harshest punishment possible? Or would you choose a less noisy and discreet solution to solve the problem? Does this story make you think more about the complicated relationship between power, money, fame, and justice in our modern society today? Can an ordinary person, without the connections and influence of Damon Hayes, demand justice so easily and quickly when faced with abuse of power and injustice from those in power?